adequate notice of this meeting has been provided, indicating the time and place of the meeting in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, by advertising a notice in the Star Gazette and the Express Times, and by posting on the bulletin board in the municipal building. This is a special meeting of the Township of Lopatcong Council. This is February 18th, 2016. This meeting is being called to pay the bills or approve the bills that need to be approved, as they were not approved at the February 3rd meeting, and to just, I think, hire attorneys. Those are the items that are advertised. We'll have a moment of silence and prayer. Pledge of allegiance.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Valcarro.
Here.
Councilwoman McCabe.
Here.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Here.
Council President Pryor.
Here.
Mayor McKay.
Here. Okay, we have limited business, like I mentioned. This first item, resolution number 1630, wherein the township is expected to enter into contracts, commitments, and payments prior to the 2016 budget adoption. Temporary appropriations of 1/12 of the 2015 budget shall be appropriated for the general fund in the amount of $2,648,000 and change, and the sewer utility fund in the amount of $391,665.75. And now, this wasn't in the advertising. Is it okay to cover it?
Yes, so in all the emergent matters, and this deals with the payment of your bills.
That's this is emergent.
You know, temporary.
Okay,
You won't have the money to
I don't
pay
want
the
to
bill.
go straight.
Yeah.
Supposed to do. Okay.
You need to do this in order to have the money to pay the bill.
Okay. Now this means, I assume, that all of the boards and committees and everything keep their budgets as they had in last year, because that's part of the 2015 budget.
Yes,
All right, so they get a 12 to that.
1/12 of last year's budget. We already paid 206.25. This is 1/12, so that we can cover the bills that we just printed.
Okay, I haven't seen the bill list yet.
I
This is
just
it?
finished it about 10 minutes ago.
I see it's here. Okay. So I'll take a motion for the approval of this resolution.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Valcarro.
Yes.
Councilwoman McCabe.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Council President Pryor.
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Yes. Second piece of business, Resolution 1631, authorizing payment of debt service due on various dates from January 2016 to December 31, 2016. Payment of bond principal of $360,000, bond interest of $215,080, and payment of a bank anticipation note of $2,996,897.22. Okay, it looks like this is one of the serial bonds being paid with interest, and we're rolling over the bank anticipation note of $3 million. Okay, I'll take a resolution. I'll take a motion to approve this resolution.
Motion.
Second. Roll call.
Councilman Valcarro.
Yes.
Councilwoman McCabe.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Council President Pryor.
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Yes. Resolution number 1632, authorizing the 2016 temporary capital budget. Do we have that budget? Or?
It's in your paperwork.
Oh. Where? In the paper.
It doesn't be sure.
It looks like this. It's in last month. So we have to adopt it in order to keep payments bills or
I'd like to know what your resolve is.
I'm going to talk to the
last month.
Yeah, and it was
It's here now, too. So we'll be back to last month again.
Yes. Which one does it look like?
It looks like it.
Which one?
Well, we don't get them printed, so it's hard
Oh,
to
no, that's
shuffle
not-
through it
that's
until we
not
get up
what
here.
this is. That's not good. That's not the capital budget. Okay. This is nothing to borrow money.
This is nothing to borrow money, this is the capital budget. In order for us to have received any funds for bond anticipation of the bond that goes into the capital fund, in order for me to move money around, I must have this adopted, otherwise we can't pay things.
But I don't want this to be misconstrued as an authorization to borrow money.
It says a temporary 2016 capital budget, Lopatcong, sanitary sewer lines, intersection. This is the setting up of any issuance, resolving what we have in there already, the bands, bonds, interest, and notes.
Can you just explain a little further? It's showing debt, we're authorizing debt of $728,000.
It's not the authorization of debt. This is, you can't authorize debt until the council votes on it, introduces it, and then has a second meeting, the stop period is 20 days. That would bring it all the way down to April. This is just setting up anything, any activity we have in the capital budget. Okay? This is the way it's done. If you'd like to reword it, you could reword it.
I want it to be clear that this is not an authorization.
You can't authorize debt until you vote on it. And once you vote on it, then you can
Well,
stop.
Mayor, if you, maybe I could make a suggestion. If we crossed out that last column,
That's why I said, we want to reword it. you can-
Yep,
we'll just delete that
Yeah,
column far on the right.
Sure.
All right.
That authorized.
To take a motion to approve of this, absent the column on the right that says it's entitled debt authorized.
Motion.
second,
Roll call, please.
Councilman Belcarro.
Yes.
Councilwoman McCabe.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
yes.
Council President Pryor.
Yes.
Mayor Miskowski.
Yes. All right. Four. Four, 5, and 6 are authorizations to appoint counsel. So we'll take them together. I'll ask.
No.
I object, point of order. Take them separately.
Why would you object?
They're
Do you
different
want me to
items.
explain?
Yes.
One at a time, please.
As, I've read the ordinance, I've read the underlying law. As a layman, I don't think your lawsuit qualifies. It clearly talks about indemnification and defense, and recognizing I'm not a lawyer, I'll defer to our township attorney.
Well, can we decide first that we're going to address item number 4? Let's address them individually, 4 and then
No, we
5.
address them together.
Well, we don't want to address them together. They're different.
They're not different.
I just explained, so maybe we should get the attorney's opinion.
Your township ordinance, chapter 16, provides for defense and indemnification.
Use a mic.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Section 16 of the Lopatcong Township Code provides for defense and indemnification, and it is for defense of lawsuits. So it's for people who are sued, not those suing.
Well, I'm
So-
suing to clarify the authority of the mayor,
Right.
which is,
Nowhere, if you show me somewhere in chapter 16 or anywhere in the code section, it says a plaintiff can force the town to pay for his lawsuit, then we can talk about it. But this, every section says for defense of a lawsuit. So when your name appears in the defendant section, then you can ask for defense. But when it appears in the plaintiff section, you are not entitled to reimbursement from the township.
that has nothing to do with your law firm being involved in this,
Absolutely not.
of course.
That's the law.
Okay. And I don't think that's the law. I've had counsel, and they told me that when you are in a situation that I'm in, you can do things like that.
Mayor McKay, I'm also point out that you specifically asked the court in your lawsuit for the township to have to pay for your litigation. So this issue is not over. If you don't want it to be over, it's in your lawsuit. So it can be decided later. This isn't the end of that issue if you don't want it to be. But it's in you're already asking for that relief from the court.
I can't see why I would want to bring up these other representations here. I mean,
You're required under your ordinance.
Item 4 is to appoint counsel to represent the governing body. You know, the ones you sued, we're
Well, the
entitled.
ones you know
to
that
counsel.
are,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, Councilman Del Carro.
Yes.
Councilwoman McKay.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Abstain.
Council President Fryer.
Yes.
Okay.
abstain. All right, now you have another one. You want to do that too? Laws, this is to give to the clerk.
Can I just, before we, okay, which one? Never mind. Go ahead. Sorry, continue. Sorry.
Number 5.
I'll move resolution 16-34.
Second.
What are you doing?
All right, dies.
The resolution to represent the municipal clerk.
No, yes.
What?
You're
Number
seconding
5.
that one?
Yes.
Roll call. Councilman Del Carro.
Yes.
Councilwoman McKay.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Abstain.
Council President Fryer.
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Abstain.
Excuse me, point of order. Can you second a motion and then abstain?
I didn't second it.
Maureen
Maureen
seconded.
seconded. He-
All right,
It sounded like he seconded, but he was asking first.
okay.
I
I'm
believe,
sorry.
Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong.
That is
That's what I heard.
correct. Number 6, appoint counsel to represent the mayor in the lawsuit.
We just discussed that. We can't appoint counsel to represent the mayor.
Well, it still has to go for a vote.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, could we table that, Tom, until we got a little further clarification,
Okay.
rather than vote on it?
I don't think this gets tabled. This
Gets
is
tabled.
again, it's well established law. The
Maureen.
appointment of a counsel is for the plaintiffs, for the defendants.
You
Well,
are a defendant in this situation, and whether or not you can even vote in this matter is very sketchy. So, yeah, let's just table it for now.
yep, motion to
Um,
table.
Resolution number
Wait,
1635.
it's on the motion.
What?
We have to table, right?
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll roll call that. Councilman Del Carro.
No.
Councilwoman McKay.
Yeah. No.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Council President Fryer.
No,
Mayor McKay.
Yes.
No, you could just put it back on next month's agenda.
No, it's- All right, resolution number 1635, authorizing the transfer between 2015 budget appropriation reserves in the amount of $130,000 per NJSA 40A 4.59 to cover sewer operating salaries and wages. Would you have an explanation on that?
When I reviewed the appropriation reserves, it seems to be that they were overspent. And legally, I have to transfer funds to cover it, so we don't have an over an expenditure of last year's budget, which would require us to make it up in this year's budget, which would mean that we would have to put $130,000 in this year's budget because we did not transfer the appropriation reserves within the time allotted the first 3 months of the year.
No.
And then we would have to raise
No.
$130,000 this year.
To
And
cover
it would-
sewer operating
Yes.
salaries and wages?
Yes.
You're saying they were not paid?
I say it's overexpended,
I don't understand.
meaning that somebody overexpended the line item, but it wasn't budgeted properly.
So excessive wages and were paid in the sewer operating account, out of the sewer operating account?
Well, as I see it, that's what it looks like. I can investigate
Where
further.
were they paid to? Were they paid into the township payroll account and then paid to employees, or what happened to it?
That's usually how it happens. I have to investigate exactly what happened, but right now, we have a limited time to cover this. You only have this meeting and possibly next meeting, and if you don't do it, we're going to have over expenditure. It will again hit this year's budget. We will have to raise $130,000. When legally, you can transfer it right now. And then if there was an issue or an incorrect problem, we can address it at the time and it'll drop down to fund balance and be eradicated.
If I may, Mayor, I'd be surprised if it was wages. We don't have that many wages in the sewer account,
Right.
sewer collector, and everything else is outside contracting, and our biggest bill is to Phillipsburg.
There are a
Says
lot of,
operating
Mayor, may I make a
salaries.
point? There are a lot of mistakes upon that computer that I cannot keep up with investigating. So my suggestion would be you adopt this, I'll investigate, and the worst case scenario, it drops down to fund balance.
When's the deadline that you said we can do this at the next meeting?
Yeah, but I prefer to do it this meeting so that I continue to work on and then find out if there's an issue. It doesn't hurt to transfer between, it's from sewer operating, which has $200,000, to sewer salary. It's just an internal transfer.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't have any information on it, and to say yes to something I have no information whatsoever on, I don't feel comfortable saying yes to that. And if we have at least 2 more weeks to the next meeting, and we can discuss this, in a separate meeting.
Okay, but understand that it's just a transfer between.
Yeah, I understand that.
lines.
I'd
Money
like a
there,
little bit more
move it
clarity
up.
on what happened to the $130,000. Just a little more clarity, and if that's the case, then we do the transfer in March, in 2 weeks.
I don't think there's any harm in doing a transfer now at this time. It sounds like this is urgent, that we have to take care of business. We can certainly get an update when our CFO continues her investigations. I'm sure she'll provide an update at that time, but to put something as important as this off, I don't think that's being responsible, and we should continue with our duties and make the transfer now. It's an internal transfer, and it's going to cover us, so.
Well,
I
being
don't-
I don't see it
responsible
as
is having some
particularly
information
alarming.
first.
It's alarming, Mayor, because if we miss it next meeting as well, there's no more chances.
Right.
And I rather,
Well, we won't miss it at the next meeting. We'll ensure that it's on there. I would just like a little more
Things happen in this
clarity.
Township.
Yeah,
I prefer to take care of it now.
I prefer, because it's my legal, I prefer to do it now and give you an update. It's just an internal transfer from one line to another in the same budget. There's no money, real money being,
Did you just find this information out today?
sure, let's see if we can do that.
I mean, did you just find this out
Oh,
today?
yes.
Today you just found this today?
Yes. We've been paying bills on the bill list steadily since I've gotten here. The bill list is very big. It's
Yes,
a lot,
I
and we
understand
found
that.
a lot of repeat and mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
a lot of
I
mistakes on
understand
the
all that.
computer.
I just want to make sure when you found,
Right.
was this just something that was just emergent that you found today? Or have you looked at it over the past couple of days?
No, I haven't had the time. I look today because once I pay bills, I have to see if anything's overexpended. And if it's overexpended, my call is to do a resolution to cover it, to make sure that my office, myself professionally, is covered, and that we can deal with it later. It's not a big thing. It's a transfer between, it's like,
Yeah, I understand the transfer.
Moving
I'm just,
check into savings, it's not
it's
I
just
think
put
we
on
should
this in
vote
front
on
of me
it. I think
tonight.
it's important enough that we need to
Okay,
move forward.
well, if you want to
Let's
vote on
move
it, that's fine. You can vote on it. I don't have enough information in front of me. I have this, I just got this at 7 o'clock.
Well, it
So,
seems like it's something that did just occur. And again, our job up here is to represent this township in the best possible light. So
yes,
let's move
yes,
forward
Yes, yes.
and let's take a vote.
I would, before you do that, I'd like to add that if we do vote in favor of making this transfer, that also we will require that the CFO give us a little bit of a written report at our next meeting so that we all know what happened.
She said she was going to do that.
A written report, right?
Of course.
So we- I mean,
requesting
this
a
is-
written report.
She just said she's
In
going to
that case, I would
investigate
vote for it, but if, I don't like
I will give
moving
you a
money
written
around without
report.
knowing what it is.
I will send out an email as soon as I am able to figure out what's exactly happening.
I'd like to make the motion for the transfer.
I'll second that motion.
Councilman Belterra?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCabe?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
As long as we get a
It's
report.
yes or no.
Excuse me, this is my vote, and I get to
Your
say
vote is
what I
yes
want.
or no?
okay? No, this is my vote, Maureen. Please do not interrupt my vote.
You're interrupting our meeting. Please continue, Donna.
Mayor, can you please tell her to not interrupt my vote?
That would be the,
That would be the
Professional
yes
thing to
or
do.
the no vote.
she has a little comment to say we've always allowed that.
She's already said her comment.
What did you vote, Donna?
As long as we do get the report and, if you can get it as soon, I know you have a lot to do, Janice, but as soon as you possibly can, so we know exactly what happened, if there is truly an error or if there was something else that happened that it's not, it wasn't overexpended, maybe there was just some misunderstanding there. So just, if we can get that as soon as we can, I'd appreciate it. So I'll say yes, provided that we do get that.
I'll work on it tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Council President Pryor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, what do we got now? Oh, discussion regarding the temporary funding of the...
I'm sorry, Mayor, I think you got number 8.
Oh, number 8, authorizing transfer between 2015 budget appropriation reserves in the amount of $4,700 per NJSA 40A-459 from unexpended balances to those with insufficient funds. So we're just moving around some excess. Someplace we had an excess to meet, someplace we didn't.
Again, it's the same situation.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Del Farro?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCabe?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Council President Pryor?
Yes.
Yes. And then the next one is discussion regarding temporary funding of the bond ordinance for the intersection improvements at Belvedere Road and the Roseberry Street reconstruction project. Now, I have a lot of problems with this one because at no time was I ever told, or anyone on the council to my knowledge, told that we were going to be borrowing money to do this. When I first got involved with it, I was told that we had $650,000 in the can, in the jar, ready to go, and I was given a budget to do the project of $750,000.
Excuse me, Mayor?
So-
I had to fiscally make that decision, and we had that discussion at length. When you came in and asked me about, we had a very, very long discussion.
After you did it,
No, Mayor, we had discussions before that.
we didn't have discussions about borrowing money. Not until after that I reviewed. And so it appeared that all we had to do was scratch up another $100,000 and we could do this thing for cash. And the $100,000 was the people in Phillipsburg and the council for the Phillipsburg high school and some others that were at these meetings that are held periodically seemed to believe that we would be able to get that money. At least that was my impression. We've talked about it here at the council. I marked at least 7 times that we brought this up at the council. And we still hadn't gotten a final a budget. But eventually another estimate came through for the same work. And this estimate was for $925,000, I think. And at the same time, Phillipsburg told us they're not going to give us the $100,000 that they originally said that they would give us. So now we had $550,000 in the can, and we had to come up and we had to build this thing for $925,000. And subsequent to that is when this thing about borrowing the money came up. I don't feel that we should be borrowing money and putting that on the back of the Lopatcong Township people when it's not our high school and it's a county road. We did initially say that we would put in $100,000. Council agreed to that, and we signed an interlocal agreement that said we'd give $100,000. The interlocal agreement further stated that if the project went over the $650,000, we would share in a pari passu fashion any overage 3 ways, with the township, with Phillipsburg Town, and with their school district. At this point in time, none of that money has been advanced to the township. And I'm very, very, very reluctant to enter into debt based upon, well, maybe someday down the road we'll pay you this overage amount. Or maybe we'll pay you the $100,000 we said we would pay you. What I want to see, if we're going to go forward with this, I want to see that money deposited in Lopatcong. And I've spoken to bond counsel about this. Bond counsel agrees entirely. So what we need to do is tell Phillipsburg, you got to pony it up. And we will use the $925,000 number. I'll confer with Paul as to what the anticipated overage will be. That has to be divided 3 ways. We'll ask Phillipsburg and the Phillipsburg School District to bring that money here, put it on deposit so that if we take down this debt now so we can build this project, we will have money to repay it and not leave it on the backs of Lopatcong taxpayers. So that's how I see the issue.
Mayor, it's my understanding the school district ponied up their 150 quite a while ago, and
School district
Lopatcong
did.
has been holding that money. Right.
We have the 150 from the school
You
district.
just made a comment that no one has given any money. The school district gave its money. and we
If
are
I gave
holding
that comment, then that was not what I intended. Yes, they did give $150,000 up, and we did not put ours in yet. I don't know why that is, but it's not in the account yet. However, that can be accomplished. To go into a large debt over this thing, I think is foolish, and I would much prefer that we get them to put this money up front and put it in an account here before we go out and borrow this money. That's how I feel about it.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a few comments?
Of course.
Okay. The bond resolution doesn't actually borrow the money, it's just an authorization to borrow the money, correct?
Starts the process.
It starts the process, that's correct. And it must be done by ordinance, and it takes 2 readings, and there's a 20-day estoppel period. So if you don't start it now, that's a problem in getting the money. I only came on, 2 months ago. I believed from the beginning that temporary financing was going to be necessary. We have a $300,000 grant from DOT. You don't get that up front. You have to lay out the money. You submit outlays, you get reimbursed. So, in my view, temporary financing was inevitable. To not do that would probably jeopardize the project, you'd have chaos on the day of the school open. If you're looking for protection about getting the $100,000 and the percent of the overage, and I'm not sure if 900 is correct. Paul took bids. We have better numbers. Okay. And he will. It's not 900. It's a lower number. Perhaps we can work out something with Peaburg where we don't award or whatever until we get the money in hand. But I think you're going to need temporary financing regardless. And it would be better to start the process now than later.
I agree. I think we should start at least with the first reading of the bond ordinance tonight. If it was to go,
We didn't have that on our, we didn't put that out.
it's on here on item number 9, what you
Discussions.
just read.
What wasn't what we advertised
Discussions,
to
it's
the
not
public.
voting.
And emergent matters. It's an emergent matter because this can take 2 months, 2 readings, plus 20 days for implementation. The contract has to be awarded. Paul's going to give us a summary here. Contract has to be awarded soon. This light is supposed to be in. The school's supposed to be open in the fall. We're the project leaders. It's our responsibility to get this project going, not to hold it up and not to play games. I agree with you that we should not be left holding the bag waiting for money. So we should get the money from the other parties, whatever's remaining to be provided, given to us first. But in the meantime, we can get the ball rolling and start with the ordinance readings.
I don't think we can do an ordinance reading. We
Yeah.
only said here we're going to discuss it.
We can,
And we did not advertise that we were going to be borrowing money tonight.
Right.
we advertised that we would be discussing emergent matters. This
Well,
is
if
an
you knew
emergent.
this was an emergent matter, you should put it out there.
It's out here, item number
It
9.
should have been out to the advertisement, to the public.
You know, this isn't new news, and this would be the first reading. So the public comment is in the second reading.
It's not on the, it was not advertised. You cannot start an ordinance tonight,
What was
a vote on an
advertised
ordinance
was
without it being
emergent
advertised.
Matters is what was advertised.
This is not an emergent matter.
It most
Paying
certainly
bills,
is
when
emergent matter.
the mayor asked for an emergency meeting last week, you guys said it wasn't an emergency to pay the bills of the township.
Which is.
Now
it's
you're
not
saying that
related to
this is.
That's unrelated.
It's not unrelated.
Excuse me, please. Katrina, could we hear an opinion, please?
Well, do you want to hear Paul's report?
Yes.
That might clear things up a little.
If there's new news, I'd love to hear it.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I just want to give you some of the goings-on this project over the last few months to give you a sense of where we're at with this project, so you can make your decision as to whether or not you want to introduce this ordinance either tonight or on March 2nd. We've been working for really the last year on this particular project. When I say we, the Township of Lopatcong. on coming up with a set of design plans to address the required roadway improvements that are needed to service the high school. And as part of this interlocal agreement that was just mentioned a few moments ago, we've been able to do that. Lopatcong Township in that interlocal agreement was designated as the project leader, as Maureen just mentioned. And in that role, we had a variety of different responsibilities, but namely to put together the plans and bid documents, procure the permits, get everybody, all the parties together to coordinate on a regular basis, so we got things done and had decisions made. I'm happy to report that really the entire design process is done at this point. The plans and bid documents were completed and in fact advertised for public bid. All the permits have been obtained. All the submissions to the Department of Transportation Municipal Aid Office have been made. So all that's done at this point. We did accept bids last week on the 11th, and we received 4 bids for the project. They were all very, very competitive. In fact, amazingly, the spread between the 4 bids was only about $27,000. The lowest bid came in at $734,000. The engineer's estimate was $801,000, so the bid that was received is $67,000 less than the engineer's estimate, so I think that's a very positive development at this point. The big issues that we need to deal with moving forward, the first is there are some utilities that have to be relocated as part of the project. And one of our duties during the design process was to get together with the utility companies, identify the conflicts, and determine how they're going to be addressed. So we had a meeting last week, finally out in the field with Verizon and JCP&L and the cable company, and we have a course of action. The only issue right now with that is that the utility companies feel they should be compensated for the pole relocations and the utility relocations on this particular project. I was surprised to hear their position on it. I consider this to be a municipal and county road project, and typically on those projects, they do not charge the municipality for such relocations. So it's going to be necessary, and Katrina and I have talked about this, to do a little bit of research to see where we stand legally, to see if in fact we do have to compensate the utilities for this work. So that's one open issue that's getting resolved. The second is the county wants both the town of Phillipsburg and the Township of Lopatcong to approve sidewalk agreements, and this is a very standard thing where sidewalk construction is taking place on a county road. It doesn't mean that Lopatcong Township and the town of Phillipsburg actually have to go out and maintain the sidewalks that are being built as part of the project. And in fact, if we have ordinances that designate who maintains sidewalks, that responsibility will filter down to those particular entities. And it's typically the property owners that have the sidewalk along the frontage of their properties. So in this case, the school is going to be responsible and some of the other residential property owners, but we are going to have to approve that particular agreement. Obviously, we have to...
Before you leave that agreement, Paul, who's going to pay for the sidewalks?
It's going to be paid for under the construction. So it's going to be, it's a cost that it's within the bid documents, and it's going to be shared by various entities.
Yeah, I just go back to the original 2000 agreement. They were, that was not to be our cost, sidewalks.
Yep.
Yeah, the sidewalks that are in the 2000 agreement go well beyond the limits of this particular project.
Well, they're getting a break then.
Yeah. What the decision was made last year when we put the grant application with the DOT. We had put those sidewalks beyond where we're showing them on the current set of plans. It would have probably added $300,000 of cost, and felt.
I guess my point is it's a reduced scope, but we were going to pay zero of a larger scope.
Right.
We shouldn't have to pay something of a smaller scope.
The thought is that we're going to have to go out and seek some additional grant monies to be able to do those sidewalks in the future. When I say we, we're talking about Lopatcong Township and the town of Phillipsburg. So everybody's going to have to get together on that. But yeah, in the agreement, it talked about from I think it's Hillside down to Fairbanks on the Phillipsburg side, building sidewalk, and on the Lopatcong side, going from the Jurley office building all the way up to Woodview Avenue, which is the entrance to the pool.
I guess my point is we still have an agreement in force that addresses that.
We do.
And maybe in these discussions going forward, we have to talk about that.
Is there an itemized line for the cost of the sidewalks only?
There is an itemized cost for the sidewalks within this project.
Right.
Yeah, not the portions that are outside of this project that still have to be built per the 2000 agreement.
Okay.
So that would have to be designed, and we'd have to come up with a cost for that. Going back to the third issue, obviously, is the purchase of the right-of-way. Both Phillipsburg and the Township of Lopatcong have to purchase right-of-way. We hope to have that discussion and give Katrina some direction at the March 2nd meeting on that particular issue. That would be taken out of the $150,000 that Phillipsburg has already, the school district has already provided to us at this point. And then the last issue, obviously, is coming up with the funding to award a contract in this particular matter. And that's really the issue at hand tonight. That's what's listed on the agenda. I do share Mayor McKay's concern. Obviously, Lopatcong Township has done a great job and has really stepped forward to try to put the necessary improvements in place to support the high school. And I don't think it's something that the township actually had to do. I think you stepped up, as well as the town of Phillipsburg and other entities, to try to get this work done. But obviously, you don't want to do more than what's in the agreement between the three parties. So I think it's a definitive concern. With that being said, we are the project leader, and I think not introducing the ordinance at this point, I think would be a problem. It could be seen as a violation of the agreement. And I think we should introduce the ordinance, and I don't know if it can be done tonight. If it can't be done tonight, certainly on March 2nd. Again, it would not be the approval of the ordinance. It would just be introducing it at this point. And we had some discussions with the bond council yesterday. And my thought is that we would look at the agreement and determine how the costs over and above the monies that we currently have, and we know we have in place at this point, and go out to the other entities and seek that particular money and ask for the money to be given to us within a certain period of time. And if that does not come in, we don't adopt the ordinance at this point and put ourselves in that position. So, and that was my thought. Actually, I didn't get to speak about it at the last meeting, but we had a discussion yesterday. Bond counsel and I believe it's safe to say, I think Janice was involved in that discussion yesterday as well. I think that we're both pretty much in agreement with that. Would be the approach, is to introduce the ordinance, go out and get the money that we should be getting from the other parties to get their fair share under the agreement, and ask them to provide their money within a certain period of time. And if it doesn't come in, we don't adopt the ordinance. But at least you wouldn't be not following through on your role as the project leader as defined in the agreement, which is in Part 6 of the agreement. So that's what I think you should do, and that's where we're really at in total on this project.
Come sit down.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So Paul, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So if we waited the 2 weeks to the next meeting so we can properly advertise it, is that putting us, it's 2 weeks, is that putting us in any kind of sticky situation?
No. This is a legal matter, so obviously you'll have to deal with it from a legal perspective. You can do it tonight. If we could do it tonight legally, it would be a good thing, because it would allow the process to move forward. We were really hoping to get the project into construction by April 1st. There's a 135-day calendar period in the bid documents, I should say, to allow for the construction of this project. So if we started April 1st, that's going to take us to August 15th. It doesn't give us a lot of time before the start of school. So every day really counts at this point. So if the construction doesn't come off, let's say until April 20th right now, 135 days are going to take us out to roughly Labor Day at that point. So we would need the contractor to pick up the pace and try to push this thing through. And, it's going to be difficult. We have the utility poles that have to be relocated, plus all the aerial hardware. And we do have a traffic signal. It's a testing period for the traffic signal. So this is a comprehensive project, and it's not like the whole project can be worked on at one time. It has to be done in a phased manner due to the need to maintain traffic and keep a safe roadway there. So it's going to be done in bits and pieces. And also, once we get to the end, what's good right now is if we get this job going, school is going to be out in June, and some of the end work can be done while people are on vacation. We start pushing this into the end of August and September. and school starting, it's going to be more difficult to mill and pave the roadway,
So,
more traffic around.
if we go this far and Phillipsburg decides they're not giving us the money, then we're out the money.
Well, then
We've
we don't
already
have
pulled
to-
back on 100,000. that was
You know,
supposed to-
We don't have to approve it.
Paul stated we were on a conversation the other day where we laid out what we would do for the financing of this project, and we all were in accordance that we would try and get the funding up front first via Katrina, so that we would not be on the hook for all this money.
And just to be clear, when we say Phillipsburg isn't giving you the money, it's my understanding, in addition to the township of Lopatcong needing to buy property to extend, the town of Phillipsburg needs to buy. And their appraisals the pieces they're buying are much bigger. So it's approximately $40,000 to $50,000 of the project is coming from them purchasing property. So it's my understanding, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, you've talked to some people in Phillipsburg, is that they're saying, well, we're not going to give you $100,000 and then say, give us back the 50 so we can give them to these people. They're going to spend the $40,000 to $50,000 to buy the land they need to buy, and whatever's left will go into the pot with everyone else. And I think that's the discussion we need to have. Instead of sending an invoice to Phillipsburg for $100,000 when they need to do things as part of the project too, although with the project manager, they have kind of their own responsibilities as part of this project. So if instead you ask them for the balance, of and it's my understanding, I spoke to Rich Wenner today, and he said he believes, based on the appraisals they received, 40 to 50 is what they need to purchase the land. And obviously, if they don't need that much, then whatever's left, they have to give that into the pot as well. But I think that might be a more realistic request. And them having to document everything that they, what they spent on their
The
appraisals.
agreement called for them to put in the 100,000 in.
If you read the agreement, it says, and their 100,000 is to be used for the cost of acquiring land for this project, just as Lopatcong has to use its $100,000 towards
But it
that as
doesn't
well.
say that you do it independent of each other.
The agreement also doesn't say Phillipsburg gives you a check for $100,000 and you put it in your account.
Who wants it?
And then if there's money above and beyond what everybody puts in, we have to split that equally and get the money
Yes,
from
and that's
each
the
group.
big piece.
Well, that's
Mayor, just one thing, Mary Ellis was here last week at the conclusion of the bid opening, and he indicated he would provide a check. He'll give us the $100,000 if we go out and pay the Phillipsburg property owners. I really don't want you doing that because the Phillipsburg property owners may ask for more money over and above the appraisal, and then you're going to be in a negotiation session with all the Phillipsburg property owners. I don't think you want to be involved in that. So I think you should take the net. Quite honestly, that gives us the money toward awarding a construction contract, and let Phillipsburg deal with compensating the property owners under the appraisal at this point. But he did say, Mayor Ellis last week, he would provide us a check. We just need to clarify the appraisal amount that's in Mr. Heffenon's report, and then I think we can move back to him and ask for those funds, so we have those funds accounted
It's
for.
my
at this
understanding
point.
it's about 40 to 50. So we would be getting, the net would be about 50 to 60 that would be coming into the account.
So that would give us $450,000.
450 to 455. And John Drakowitz needs to know that too, because we need to adjust.
450.
the
And how
bond
much
limits.
of this 450? We're going to use all of that towards the 734, right?
Yes.
That's your new cost.
Well,
All-in cost, there's nothing else?
no,
The only thing is the utilities.
Moving utilities and the condemnation money. We have to,
Well, the condom,
that's not much for us,
yeah,
but
the
it's,
150,000 the school district gave us, we've been using to design the project.
Right.
And we also paid the appraisal cost, and we're going to pay for the right-of-way acquisition. And we're also going to use that for inspections. So that's all being used for soft costs on this
all right,
particular
so,
matter.
all right. So then,
So-
all we have to come up with is to move the utilities and the 734 in the contract.
Because the utilities, we need to verify
I'm looking at
Verizon's position, whether or not that is a satisfactory legal position. I have not seen that on a municipal road job. So we need to find out and confirm their position.
Do we have any idea how much they would charge us for this?
Their agreement is for $38,000. That's only theirs. JCP&L only has one of the 6 poles. I don't want to speculate what their cost would be, but I'm sure it would be a percentage of the
50,000 all in the.
I think 50,000 is 50 to 60,000 is probably a good ballpark estimate if they are legally correct on this. We also have the cable company as well.
And
So-
that's what,
Councilman.
So we're getting up to close to 800,000 with all this add-ons, right?
and that's split
And
by
we have
3.
450 to meet the 800. Now, if we don't get something out of the other 2 parties here, we could stand to lose that difference.
You have contractual, they have a contractual obligation to give it to you.
But they'll fight it. Of course,
Well-
it's time and money. Maybe they won't, but I'm much more happy if the money is sitting in our account.
If I could, Mayor, maybe I have a proposal. I understand your concerns. I share them. If you did a timeline, obviously the financing, which we're going to need regardless, that does run out there. There's a first reading, second reading, 20-day estoppel period, then you actually borrow the money. So that's on the critical path. I would like to see that get started as soon as possible, and you don't have to borrow the money. It's the authorization to borrow the money. The first reading is a simple majority, and it's by title. That's done very quickly. The second reading and final adoption is a 2/3 majority. If you were uncomfortable at that time, it's a month away, you could stop it. So I'd like to see that get started. In the meantime, I'd like to see all these little costs that are floating around there get worked out with P-Berg, and we give them a drop dead date for putting money in the kitty. I don't want to see Lopat be the one that holds up this project or kills it. I want to get this back in P-Berg's court. All
I
right?
agree, that's what I said at
So-
the beginning. I don't want to.
So, all right, we agree.
Right.
All right. Can we do that? Now, how quickly, could we do the first reading tonight, or you don't feel comfortable with that?
I think we should do the first reading tonight.
If you
And
wanted to do the first reading tonight, you could do the first reading tonight.
Would I
only a
be
first
correct
reading.
in saying that the mayor should not fear he can stop this on second reading?
Absolutely. As he said last meeting,
If he gets
the
a second vote, he
reading
can
is
stop.
a 2/3.
And we're not
majority.
borrowing anything at this point.
No,
Right, just authorization.
just authorization.
just starting the
Okay,
process.
with all of that, how do you feel about a first reading tonight? Katrina, we'll start with Katrina and then we'll talk.
It's completely up to council what they wish to do, but if that's what council wants to do legally, you can do that tonight.
I think it's beneficial that we start the process rolling, because there are time constraints. I mean, this is February. The school's opening in September. The project, you've got bids coming in. It's 135 days. There's lots of things that come up that have to be done. As project leaders, it's our responsibility to keep the process flowing. And I understand, we all agree, Lopatcong does not want to be left, short on money. So we get the process rolling, we get a legal letter out to the other parties stating we need the money in the funds by such and such a date. If we don't have that money in the funds, then we would not be obligated to proceed, because then we're putting the risk on us. But then if they don't give us those monies, then it's going to be their fault that this project isn't rolling forward. I do not want it to be our fault that this project isn't rolling forward. So I think we need to do a first reading tonight. We do our second reading in March. There's 20 days after that, and there'll be time for public comment.
But I think that's even a little, why would we want to go through all this, a first reading, and then get to the second reading, and then if we don't get the money, then we have to stop the project, and now we're so late in the process. Why wouldn't we just
No, you're
get all
still
this
not,
kind of...
I mean, all you have is an authorization which can be canceled at any time, correct?
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
You're not borrowing the money.
Right, I know we're
No.
not physically borrowing the money
No.
like as soon as we say this tonight. I just wish that for the 2 weeks, we iron out all the little inconsistencies, and
I know, all I'm trying to do here
I
is
understand.
false talk in April 1,
Right.
and I think that's already a pipe dream. you throw in another 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks further. Even after the second reading, there's a 20-day estoppel period.
Right.
It's moving out there, and I'm just trying to shorten the timeline.
Right. We're cutting it too close, especially with the spring season coming up. You know, we have days, sometimes it can rain for a week straight. And then now we're losing more time. So I think this is just authorization. That's all it is.
It's a first reading. We're not even at
Yeah.
authorization.
And, you know, and to kick the can down the road another 2 weeks on top of everything else, it doesn't make sense to me.
Can we include in the first reading that is contingent upon our getting our funding?
No,
No, it
The bond ordinance.
doesn't work
can't
that way.
make it contingent.
if we don't get our funding, we don't have to vote on it. We vote on it after we get our funding.
So that puts pressure on Peaburg. They have to act quickly.
That's right. Then the ball's in their court,
It's in
not
their
ours. Right
So-
now, it's in ours. We're the project leader. We need to keep it moving forward.
So what they do will dictate what we do next.
Right.
Are the plans and the quotes and all of that available for council? Because we've not seen any of this, of the project. It's kind of hard to vote on projects too when you haven't really seen any information.
Yeah, the bids are on file here in the township, and I have a bid summary sheet that I can email to everyone so that you can see all 4 bids on one spreadsheet, and you can
Okay.
look at all the unit prices and the prices in their totality. So I
Okay,
can send that to you either late tonight or tomorrow morning.
okay. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
So, we move forward.
Just to get this rolling, based on Katrina's opinion, I'm going to make the recommendation that we have the first reading by title of the bond ordinance tonight, and all we need is the number.
Yes.
What number's going in there?
I would say to play it safe, we use the ordinance that was sent to us for last meeting. We should,
What was that number?
Can we have a copy of the ordinance so I can see it?
Did you get it last meeting?
How much?
Yeah, we did, but this wasn't on the agenda to have to vote on tonight, so I don't have a
It
copy
was
of it
in
tonight.
last month's agenda. We had a copy in last month's agenda.
Yes, we
And
did.
we were not supposed to look at it tonight, so why would she refer to
So didn't you look at it last month, the last meeting?
Yeah,
My goodness, can we just stop this? I'm asking for a copy. It's not rocket science. I just want a copy of the ordinance before we put it through. It's not rocket science.
It says $850,000.
I think actually which could serve as a guide, if you look at resolution 16-32 and you had the 3 capital projects, the middle project is the project we're talking about right now, and that gives you, it doesn't give you all the language in the ordinance, but it gives you the numbers that were in the ordinance that were part of your agenda package for February 3rd.
Excuse
So
me,
I
Paul,
think-
I have the number here. It's
Okay.
728,500.
Right.
Can I have your copy?
This is
or-
my copy, but you would like to look at it?
isn't
Well,
that,
that's not a copy of
why are
the
we putting in such a large
Yeah, I know
number?
the numbers. I want to see the board.
I mean, we still have,
That's my copy, Jonathan.
Thank you. I'll give
And
it
I-
back.
You don't want to,
project's only 734, and we still have to put
no, but you
$100,000.
have some other costs yet. You have your,
Thank you.
possibly utility costs.
bills, yeah,
I don't know if all the land acquisition is in there.
that's the minimum.
The land acquisition's going to be taken care of
Yeah, that's
as part of the
150.
150 that we already have in our coffers at this point.
So what's a good number? Smaller number?
Well, my thought was, until I saw Verizon's proposal late yesterday, was to actually reduce it down to $800,000. That was the discussion that we had yesterday with John Drakowitz. So we talked about reducing it.
Excuse me, Paul, I'm more comfortable introducing this one in a timely manner, and soft costs have to be included, unforeseen things, and I think that my professional opinion is that we just leave it as it is. John Drakowitz did not revise it. He If he would have felt that it needed to be revised, we would have had discussion, and I think that we should just, okay? Because when you go off of bonding anyway, you usually, get an estimate according to what the professionals thought, and that's what you go out for. You just don't continually change them.
The amount borrowed is almost always less than the ordinance, and you cancel these amounts down the road, right?
Right, absolutely. There's canceled previous capital ordinances encompassing to the tune of $91,000.
All right, just to restate my motion, I make a motion, we authorize a resolution for temporary financing for the Belvedere Road and Roseberry Street improvements in the amount of $850,000.
Just to clarify, the ordinance, not
The
resolution.
ordinance, you're correct,
First reading of ordinance.
correct, by title, right?
I second that.
Mayor, do you feel comfortable with all of this that we've just discussed?
Isn't there a vote now?
Yep, there is.
She asked a question. Not really.
Is there a motion?
You know,
Vote.
I have a feeling it's not going to end well. But you're all telling me that you think it will end well, and based upon that, you continue with your vote.
No, well, by Robert's rules, we shouldn't. This motion, we're on a vote, right?
Right, it's discussion. Motion, second, discussion.
All right. What we're saying is there's many ways to stop this. I can never guarantee something ends well, but if you're uncomfortable, you vote against the second reading. Even after it's passed, you don't have to borrow the money. And I can't say it any simpler than that.
Right. And again, we're the project leader, so it's our responsibility to move forward. It's the first reading.
Okay.
So do we take a vote?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Councilman Valcarro,
Yes.
Councilwoman McCabe,
Yes?
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Council President Pryor,
Yes?
Mayor McCabe.
Yes. All right, moving right along. I think we go to payment of bills. This is the next item on the agenda. Are you prepared to offer this according to Chapter 7 of our ordinances?
Who are you speaking to?
Anyone who wants to answer. According to our ordinances, all vouchers recommended for payment shall be presented to the council by the township clerk at a regular meeting or an adjourned regular meeting. The township clerk shall read the total amount of the individual vouchers approved by the chief financial officer according to budgetary appropriation, stating the apportionment between salaries and wages and other expenses. Authorization to draw the checks and pay the amounts of the approved vouchers shall be by motion of the township council. So that is the way our ordinances say we should be doing this. It wasn't done that way. But in recent review of this, I think we should go with our ordinance and do it the way we're supposed to.
Is this something that you filed in your lawsuit, Mr. Mayor?
My lawsuit?
Yeah.
Well, this is one of my concerns is that we don't follow our ordinances. And I think we should. Now, the way that we've
Hey,
approved
guys.
bills has changed in the last few weeks, and I don't know what's going on anymore.
I can't hear.
Pardon me?
I can't hear.
You can't hear me?
No,
Why?
because there's side discussions and I can't hear. It's right in front of me and it's echoing and I can't hear. Sorry, I can't hear anybody. It's right in front of me. Sorry.
It's okay, I'm sorry, it pertains to what we're discussing, is very important.
Yeah.
Legal.
Yeah, you're right. I know. I need to hear it out.
See, again, I'm someone who likes policies, procedures, and things done in an orderly fashion. And This is the way we're supposed to do it. Now, used to do it when I first got here. I just followed the way I was told we did things, and I got all the bills, and I looked at them, and I signed most of them. And, you know, that procedure is now changed, and I don't know. I wasn't told why it's changed. It's just changed. So I don't see the bills anymore. So now, I get a bills list when I sit down here that is huge. And I'm a little, you know, I'd like time to look at this before I approve it.
You know what?
It's millions of dollars.
If you could, Mayor,
Yeah.
you've been here 14 months.
Yep.
Oh, this is coming up tonight. We have a meeting to pay bills. I'm going to make a motion, we pay the bills. If there's a question about the procedure, I suggest we go back and we also look at the charter and make sure the charter conforms to the ordinance and our procedure conforms to all, both of them.
Doesn't.
But you've had 14 months here. We called a special meeting at your request to pay the bills. I move we pay the bills.
I asked for an emergency meeting to pay the bills a couple of days after.
There's a motion on the
I
floor.
think there's a motion on the floor. I second it. That's the main, one of the main.
I have some questions. Can I ask, since I'm just looking at this now as well, there's 2 purchases of computers for $2,600 apiece. Anybody know when they were purchased and why they weren't approved by council?
I would have to review the purchase orders, but I think that the police department has one, and I don't know if the one in the finance office, because the finance office one broke. That one has one as well.
I think
Okay.
last year the mayor purchased a computer as well without.
Right, and you made a big stink about it, Maureen,
I
yet
never
you're not
purchased
saying anything
anything.
about
It was
this.
purchased for me. I asked for a used computer. Okay, I guess I'll have to ask Katrina now. Katrina, we have an ordinance that tells us how we should have been doing this. And apparently the ordinance has never been followed, at least in my time coming to meetings. I never saw it followed. I went along with what was done when I came here because I didn't know the ordinance existed. Subsequently, I found out that it does, and now I think we should enforce it and use it properly. Another thing that it says is that only 3 parties may sign checks, the mayor, the chief financial officer, and township clerk. But here we allow a 4th person to sign checks.
Here, I think what the council president suggested is that he believes there may be some discrepancies between the charter and the ordinance, and he said that those should be looked at. But I believe his motion was not to look at that tonight, to pay the bills, and then for next time, take a look at those.
So-
I think there's a
I brought it
motion on the
to
floor
his
to pay the
attention
bills. I
in the
don't know if now is
past.
the right time to do
So Katrina, you don't know which way they're supposed to be paid?
That's not what she's
That's
saying.
not what I said.
Yeah,
I have
I know,
not
I'm
been
asking.
Not
asked,
what she's
Okay,
saying.
I have not been asked to look at the charter versus the ordinance and look at any of this.
Right, I'm not saying prior to this, I'm saying at the moment, do you know the proper procedure?
We need to research
You
the
need to
topic.
look and see what the charter says versus
Yeah,
the
I-
ordinance, and you need to make sure that they correspond.
Right, but my question was, at the moment, do you know? And your answer is no, because you have to look at the charter, right?
Yes.
So-
Right, here's what the charter says. No municipal funds shall be dispersed except pursuant to and within the limits of appropriations made in accordance with the law. All disbursements shall be by bank check or draft, signed by the mayor and countersigned by the treasurer on
You know what?
warrant of the chair of the finance committee of the council, approved by the council.
I'm
That's what
sorry,
this
are you,
is.
excuse me, are you talking about signing checks, Mr. Mayor?
Because
I think we have a motion and a second on the floor, and you're talking about something different.
Right, it's cool comments
I think we
and
need to, but the comment
discussion.
should be related to what we are voting on, not
It
not
is.
another topic.
Paying bills is
That
Paying
related.
the bills, the comments are related to
Paying-
the payment of
yeah.
bills and doing it pursuant to our charter and our
And
ordinance.
after 14 months, you're raising this.
I went along with what was done. I
went along.
We have professionals I rely on and I think that we got it right, so I go along with it until I find out it's wrong. What?
I'm sorry, public comment is after the meeting, after we're done.
What is your suggestion? Do we not pay bills tonight?
My suggestion is that we do pay the bills tonight. I tried to get the
Okay,
bills
there's
paid
a
3
motion on the
weeks-
floor
2 weeks ago.
for that. And
Yeah,
I,
there's a
and I,
But, on the other
I
hand,
agree, we will,
How does this work here?
one motion at a
Do you-
time. You
wait,
can't,
Do you run the meeting or what?
There's a motion and
there's a motion on the floor.
there's a second.
Let's take a vote.
I'd like to
please.
take a roll call, please.
Mayor, can you finish your statement, please, before we do that?
Yeah, my statement was, I don't want to finish it. I brought forth my points. I brought forth the points that we weren't doing this right. I found out about it when I started to research it. I relied on our professionals and our people here that we were doing this thing right all along. Apparently not. Now we want to again do it wrong for expediency's sake. The bills have to get
Disagree
paid.
with your statement, Mr. Mayor.
The bills have
And
to
you
get
filed a
paid.
lawsuit, and that's one of the counts in your lawsuit, so I don't think we should even be discussing it at this time. And you're not.
Well, it's not, the mayor has been here for 14 months and he's questioning it. This has been done for how many years, and it,
It was never questioned, apparently.
I'm sorry, this isn't your
all right.
litigation that you filed against your counsel, so I don't think this is the appropriate time.
I am not
it is.
stating it
I'd
as,
really like to take a vote on this matter. Let's move forward, please.
all right, you call your roll.
Councilor Carroll.
Yes.
Councilwoman McKay.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
yes.
Council President Byer.
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Abstain.
Why are you have to...
Because you told me it's in my lawsuit, I can't vote on it. I have to get legal advice to find out if I can, so. I don't,
Can I make one last suggestion? Who should we have? Katrina, could you look at the charter and the ordinance and see if we're within
Sure.
our legal,
I'll work
you know,
with Janice.
legal boundaries?
Come up with something.
and we
And
also,
report, maybe by email as soon as practical.
all right, now also in your review, I would like you to determine in the situations where people sign the checks that are not allowed to sign them pursuant to charter and pursuant to ordinance, what becomes of those checks? Are they legitimate? Because I've been in situations here where certain things have never passed my way and they were signed by 3 parties but not me, and then I find out about them much later.
That's untrue. That's an untrue statement, Mr. Mayor.
I'll stand by it.
You do that.
Let's,
Correct.
Excuse me, I have a question for Katrina. Katrina, now that we've laid the groundwork in case we go for the debt, they canceled out the debt authorized section of the capital budget. Legally, what do you want to do about that? I'd have to reintroduce this again, and I'd have to do it again.
That's a resolution, right?
Yep.
So you can reintroduce that when we need to.
Yes, but if Paul, I'm not comfortable. Debt doesn't get authorized until you vote on it legally. So this doesn't get put onto the system then, and wouldn't be used. I'd rather have this coincide with the introduction. Am I wrong?
Typically, that's how you would do it, but in this case, we have a meeting in a week and a half, so we can you can put it back on, and since they're not authorizing it just yet, they're just doing first reading.
Okay.
Okay, Mayor, it's yours.
yeah. I'm trying to find one of my agendas here. All right, here we go. We did the bills. Now we can open up the, for public comments. I'll take a motion open for public comment.
Motion?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment is open. Pete?
Hi, Pete DeCello, 50 Bucknell Drive. I'm probably pretty sure that everybody behind me is going to agree with a few of these things I'm going to say. We always talk about wasting money and spending money we don't have and this and that. We pay 3 professionals, CFO, correct? CFO, an attorney, and an engineer to do things for us. Paul designs, gets bids, does all his things. Our attorney gives us our legal advice. Our CFO goes over the numbers, goes over the bills, goes over everything we're supposed to make sure all the numbers fall right legally, so she protects the town, protects everybody here, and protects herself. We want to talk about wasting money. Why do we argue when they give us their professional opinion? We look at Katrina and we say, Katrina, where do we stand legally on this? And she says, this is where we stand. And yet we bash her or we argue with her. There's no arguing the legal opinion. If she's telling us this is what's legal and this is what's not, then why do we argue it? If the CFO says this, I had to write things down because I lose my thought. This money is very important to be moved, and it needs to be moved. Or I can get in trouble for it. The town can get in trouble for it, and then it's going to screw up the next budget. So let's just move it, and what I know in my profession, if it was a mistake, we just, I don't trickle it back to wherever it belonged or wherever it was supposed to go. That's what we pay this lady for right here. Okay, so we're wasting money on her because, again, we're arguing with her and not going with what we pay her to do. Mr. Sturbins over here came here and said we have 135 days from project start to project completion. If I'm not mistaken, school starts somewhere around August 30th, September 3rd. If we delay any time, we're going to push it to the job not getting completed. Anybody knows construction, a little bit of rain happens, anything goes wrong, a safety issue, the job gets put on hold. We can't waste time. We need to do this. If it decides that something went wrong, we can stop it in, I don't know, second reading or whatever. Well, we can stop it. Why do we argue when we pay Mr. Sturbins good money to go through all these things and put things in order and give us his professional opinion on how things should be done? We micromanage every little thing that everybody does. Every single comment that anybody makes get micromanaged by somebody else. If everybody wants to argue, argue. But if we pay Katrina and we pay Paul, and I'm sorry, man, and we pay Janice, let's let them do their job. We don't tell the police officer that we pay to patrol our streets, don't patrol our street. That's his job. That's what he does. That's what she does. That's what she does. And that's what he does. If we're going to hire them and pay them, let them do their job, and let's take their professional opinion and go with it. Or we're just wasting their money, wasting your time, wasting the public's time, and probably wasting my breath.
Thank you, Chief. Peter?
Olszewski, Highlands Way. Pete, if that would make any sense, I would agree, but it doesn't. And here's why I believe it doesn't. If it doesn't bother you that our CFO tells you that $130,000 are overspent, if our CFO sits here and tells you that there are a lot of mistakes in the budget or in her accounting, that means somebody else made mistakes before. That also means that our auditor screwed it up and didn't find it, which, by the way, is the same auditor who didn't find it, which these gentlemen want to reappoint, who didn't find the mistakes in the first place. So I would agree with you if I wouldn't have seen things gone haywire here for the last, I don't know how long, just nobody cared. So, and that's the reason why it doesn't. I have one question. I want to make sure I understand it, and hopefully Katrina can answer. And legal opinion for today is that we can vote on something which was not advertised in the newspaper.
This is a public comment.
I'm not asking you.
This is a public comment.
Mayor, would you be so
Not
kind and get
answered.
that answered? I would like to know, please.
I asked that question.
But it was not really answered. I also have, if we have litigation with Phillipsburg in regards to the intersection, I would like to know the Lavery law firm, who is now the attorney for Peaburg, Greenwich, and Lopat, who is the Lavery law firm representing?
We don't have litigation with Phillips.
And then if we have litigation, and if the Lavery law firm is not representing us, do we have to get a second counsel? And would that not be great reason? I mean, now we have a law firm which is representing all neighboring towns. If that is not a reason enough for us to maybe want to consider getting a different law firm, then I don't know. All right, thank you very much.
May I make a comment? The auditors aren't administrative. That was for the previous CFO to do. She is the treasurer of all your funds. She was. The auditor comes in at the end of the year and makes sure that nothing strange is going on in the sense of theft and other sort of things. They don't make decisions for the town. The CFO does.
So you're saying the former CFO made a lot of mistakes?
Now, maybe,
Don't put words in her mouth.
let me clarify that. Last year was a difficult year in finance. We had a CFO, temporary CFO, gaps in between. It was a difficult year, period. And it wouldn't surprise me if there was a mistake or miscoding or oversight along the way.
She'll find out, investigate, and come back with reports.
Right, I'm currently investigating
Right.
myself to figure out what's exactly.
Right. So before we jump to conclusions, let's hear what the report comes back.
And Pete, Mr. Pasillo, when you make a statement like that too, not everybody here hired the people that are here. So, right.
I'm sorry, I'm not pointing out any one individual because everybody does it. I'm just saying this Janice, she asked to move some money with the protection to cover us from whatever fines or whatever it's going to happen. So, and it can be moved back. It can just be put
But
right back where it was. Hold on, it can be put right back
Yes,
where it was.
I know that.
And it's just to cover us because there's a deadline. So let's we micromanage her professional opinion to say, let's cover us from any fines or whatever could happen. And I will investigate and find out where things went wrong. And if we can, we'll just put it right back where it was. But just to cover us. We tell our kids to look both ways before they cross the street. There might not be a car coming, but we tell them to do it anyway, just in case.
So then anybody that says anything up here, we should just say yes and not question anything.
That's not what he's saying.
Yes. Well, I know that. I'm not questioning every single thing. It's a lot of money that is floating around, and, you know, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't ask questions about the finances. And when I only get it as soon as I sit here, I do have to ask questions in public because I have not received it before that. So, just so you know.
Pete, if you're going to comment, please come up
Thank
here
you.
and the proper way. If you have anything else to say, if you're done, you're done.
That's okay. I don't have, I'm good.
All right, we're done? Okay.
Sorry.
John?
I just had, I'm just going to say, talk about things tonight, but I'm just going to say one thing, and I thought about it before I came here. Just make sure that you remember the government expenditures are balanced with the needs and wants of the community. And it's your duty to provide those needs and wants of the community and to balance them with your governmental decisions in the best way you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that everybody should try to do that in the best way each and every one of them can. All right, okay.
Thanks, John.
Juniper?
Juniper Life for 32 J Lane. I came in the middle of this meeting. It was obvious that you guys were debating about the payment of an issue or whatever it is with the road. And I realized that that's a little bit of a contentious issue. I wanted to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for leading by example in terms of showing how you can come around and how you can listen to your colleagues and you can say, okay, and help to build consensus. And laughing at somebody from the public who's addressing the council is very
I
unprofessional.
think I'm laughing at you, Juniper.
It's very unprofessional because I've watched you laugh at everybody else who's
You have
spoken.
comments to make, yes.
But in any event, listen, because what I wanted to come up here and say once again is that, you know, you can work together and you don't have to agree and you don't have to like each other, but you don't have to snap at someone who wants to look at a piece of paper, and you don't have to jump in with emotion every time someone wants to make a statement so they don't have an opportunity to speak. You can say their piece, then you get your turn to talk, and you can disagree, and you may be right and they may be right, but then at least the public doesn't have to sit and watch this nonsense. You could do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mr. Horan?
Andy Horn, 13 Windsor Lane. With regard to the appointment of council, the appointment of the attorneys for the township council and for the municipal clerk, with regard to the fees that are incurred, is that something that is reimbursed by an insurer, or is that going to be something that comes out of the budget?
The insurance company has refused to pay, so it will be paid by the township.
Okay, and in terms of who's going to actually be appointed as counsel, how is that determined?
There's a resolution appointed specific
I mean, the specific
people.
name of the firm. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Do we know who that is?
Yes, we do.
The resolution 33, for the 3 council members, is Joseph Bell from the law firm of Bell, Shivas, Asalo, Rockaway, for an hourly rate of $125 an hour, which is the same as the township attorney's rate. And Ms. Stilts, the attorney Richard P. Flom, Esquire, from DeFrancesco, Bateman, Kunzman, Davis, Lair, and Flon in Livingston. The same hourly rate, $125 an hour, as per the ordinance, which requires it to be the same hourly rate.
Is there any type of cap on the
Not to
amount?
exceed $10,000 each of them.
Each of them?
Yes.
And then with regard to item number 6 on the agenda, with the appointment of counsel to represent the mayor, I thought the vote was not to table it, so I don't understand it. Was there supposed to be a vote then on it? The vote, there was a motion, I
Yes.
believe, to table it and that went down. It wasn't voted not to table it, so should there be a vote on it? That was a
Didn't
question.
vote on it.
I don't
We
know.
didn't vote.
What's that?
We didn't vote. There was no
There's just
vote.
no vote, just
No,
there's
there was
nothing
no
happens
vote.
on it.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, now, just to be sure, because, you know,
Tom, there's another.
oh, I'm sorry. Eric, I didn't see you waving in.
Eric Johnson, 361 Stonehenge Drive. I just have a comment on the intersection bond discussion. I see what everybody was doing, and it's good. We do have to remember that the only reason why we're doing this intersection improvement is because there's a high school in place. That being said, the burden of this does not have to fall mostly on Lopatcong Township. It needs to be shared. We don't want to get stuck with this. So a couple things that I heard is, and these are quotes. I might have missed a couple words, but someone said, "Get money from the other entities before adopting the ordinance." That was said. Let's vote after we get the funding. So here's the timing of it, and here's what I don't understand. We have a first reading tonight. We have a second reading in the beginning of March. There is no way you're going to get this funding by your second reading. So are you setting yourselves up just to flat out not get the second ordinance passed? You're not going to get the funding before you vote. The ordinance will have to be passed before you get the funding. I don't want to see another Phillipsburg Sewer Authority. We overpaid that by potentially a lot of money. I don't know. But if we build this before we get the money from these other entities, I'm talking.
I'm trying to get an answer for you.
Okay.
I don't believe they're doing second reading at the first
Oh,
Wednesday in March.
Okay.
I don't believe there's enough time to advertise or under the bond ordinance get any of that.
I might have misunderstood because I thought I heard this. I heard somebody say second reading in March.
In March.
Like when the timeline, so second reading in March maybe puts it at like March 5th. I don't know, like somewhere around there.
Yeah,
But it can't happen because you'll never get the money
Right.
in time. And from what I've seen in the past, over many, many years, if Lopatcong pays and completes the project and then goes after the money, you're not going to get it. You're just not going to get it. You're going to have to end up spending $100,000 suing them, and it's a break-even deal. So please, keep in mind the fiscal responsibility. This is not Lopatcong's responsibility to pay the money. It's to manage the project. Let's make sure we get our funding in line. So I don't need to see another $400,000 put on the taxpayers. So
Can I respond? And I do this politely just to try and clarify. There's two different paths here. There's the actual borrowing of the money, the award of the project, and the payments. What we pushed forward tonight was simply the bond ordinance, which authorizes us to borrow the money if and when we feel like it. If you don't borrow the money, that gets retired. But you can't do anything that's on the critical path. And the risk associated with that is virtually nothing. So laying the money out of your pocket and what we did tonight are really two entirely different things.
And I recognize that, and I appreciate that fact, but let's remember, it's a lot easier to lay it out once you have the approval. So please, I'm going to hold everybody at their word. If this passes and we have the authorization to borrow money if we not to, please don't borrow it, even if it delays the project. Please don't borrow it until we actually have the money. And that is, everybody was in agreement tonight. Even if the ordinance passes on the second reading, let's make sure this project doesn't start until we have the money in hand. So as a taxpayer, I beg you. So please stick with what the opinion was. So is that reasonable?
I don't know what would make you think that we wouldn't follow through on what we said tonight. So that's
I'm
where we
just
are.
nervous because it's a lot of money.
All right. We'll calm you down there.
It's all good. I'm just nervous about spending that kind of money and then trying to get it back.
I'm a taxpayer too.
Yeah.
Eric, the ball's in the people's court right now, as of tonight. It's going to be in their court. If they don't come up with the money, then this is not going to pass.
That's right.
Good.
That's simple.
That's
So I
what
don't
we
know why
said.
it's so hard to understand what we
That's
said
what we said.
before, but
No,
I want to make it clarify.
very easy to
That's what I
understand.
mean.
It's very easy to understand what you say. I just want to make sure we don't just talk the talk and we walk the walk. We are going to stop this
No.
project at Phillipsburg doesn't pony up. We have to,
Yeah.
because we'll never get it if we don't. But thanks, Lou, and thanks for your.
Again, if the project stops, it's going to be Phillipsburg stopping it, not Lopatcong.
Right. Egg will be in their face, not ours.
Wow.
Yvonne Redmeyer, 27 Brandon Court. I just wanted to clarify and make sure that I understand that the money that Phillipsburg School District has already given their money, so we have that. Phillipsburg has to give us money less what they're paying to acquire property. They're already in the process of acquiring the property?
Yes,
Okay, so-
as is Lopat.
So that's already underway. So we're talking 50,000, you said between 40 and 60 depending, right? So 10,000 in a lawsuit, 10,000 in a lawsuit, how many other lawsuits? That's our 50,000.
We're also splitting, sorry, we're also splitting the overage. If it's a $400,000 overage that we don't get reimbursed 2/3 of it, that's money we lose. So it's the overage that I'll also.
Yeah, that's the big thing yet to be accounted for. And that could be 100,000 each. And I don't want to eat that. So and I don't think anyone else here does, I hope. I don't think so. Lori.
Lori Cheslow, 12 Meadowview Drive. Just a couple things. I'll try to go fast. Thank you for doing first reading on the ordinance. As you know, there's about, on average, 400 kids per grade in the high school. So that would mean about 400 seniors. Plus, if you take half the juniors, that's 200. That's 600 new drivers. You really do need to make sure this intersection goes through. To reiterate what Yvonne just said, 10,000 for this attorney, 10,000 for that attorney. Spending 50,000 in case Phillipsburg doesn't give you the money on time to protect 600 teenage drivers, to me, is worth it. I just had to. They don't drive well. As far as the ordinance that's on the books about the clerk reading the bills into the minutes, I don't know, that was probably put on the books many, many years ago when you probably had 5 bills. Now that you probably have about 50, I don't know if you necessarily want to go and read them all through, but you do get a bills list, and that bills list is included in the minutes book, so technically I think you are following the ordinance. I was told many, many times over the 3 years I was up there that paying bills is not an emergency, so you cannot have an emergency meeting. I was also told last year about our indemnification chapter and what is included and what isn't included, and everybody should have received a memo from the attorney stating that. So it should be clear that if you are a plaintiff, you cannot get money. And if we don't know the difference between a plaintiff and a defendant, maybe we should not be suing anybody. That said, I want to thank the council for doing the right thing last meeting. Once the attorney was asked to step down, you really had no choice. Before I go into the rest of it too, like to reiterate what Peter Pasillo was saying, I don't think anybody else in this room has a CMFO license. If she's telling you she needs something done, you listen to your professionals, and I do believe the vote to hire her was 5-0. And that goes for the attorney and Mr. Sturbridge as well. I sat up there for 3 years. I worked closely with all of our professionals. For just $125 an hour, I always felt that Lavery's firm has been an asset to our town. They have given fair opinions based on their interpretation of the law. Sometimes they agreed with me and others, and sometimes they didn't. I, however, didn't think to sue them when they disagreed with me. Now, I know that we all worked with them. I know our legal bills last year were astronomical, so I know the mayor was working with them, Donna. Everybody got advice from them. I am not quite sure why we're suing over this. I mean, if you don't like hearing no, that's just a part of life. Or if it's because we made some kind of promises to these people out here to get rid of these professionals, I don't think that's in the best interest of Lopatcong. They have the institutional knowledge, and they're $125 an hour. Even if you went with Caldwell, who was $140 an hour, based on what our average bills used to be, which was $80,000. Now I think we're probably at what, $160, $170 from last year. At $80,000, that extra $15 comes out to almost $10,000 extra. Again, all these little $10,000, they add up. It's not in the best interest of the taxpayers. And when we're sitting here and suing, wasting taxpayer dollars over well-settled law, I don't understand what we're doing. And that is what was said. I do believe the judge said that. It was well-settled law. So it's great that you managed to find an attorney who wanted to file a lawsuit over well-settled law, but I really don't think this is the person that you should have appointed as a township attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Sir?
But you like the guy who's up at that after the whole run.
Hi, my name's Mark Rittermeyer. I live on 27 Browning Court. Look, I just want to say thank you for passing the reading for the street light. Look, I'm going to be one of those drivers next year. It's a very exciting time.
There's a whole bunch of kids going at high school. Phillipsburg's moving stuff up. Middle school's moving stuff over. They gave us a whole presentation. They are at a point of no return. They are going to be ready for September. So that light is going to be really, really important. And I totally, as a certified project manager, I totally get the critical path. You have to start this now. And I totally get if Phillipsburg doesn't pay up, then we'll stop it. But at least it's a different message that Phillipsburg's holding it up, not us. So I appreciate you guys starting and listening.
Marla?
Arlendick, 10 Byron Drive. I just want to say personally as a taxpayer, I am very glad that the discussion took place about the bond ordinance, Mayor McKay. I am glad that you voiced your concerns about the Lopatcong taxpayers having to take on the major burden of this. At least now it's been said, maybe it's reported in the paper, people are aware of that, so that we will be more motivated to hold to that. I don't know if you didn't say anything about that, if there would have been any discussion about any of these other issues. So at least the discussion was had, it was brought out to the public, we're going to hold you to all these things, and that's why having debate like this is very important. So I thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you, Marla. Okay, it doesn't appear that we have anyone else who has anything to say in public comment. So I'll take a motion to end these proceedings. Motion. I'll take a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.